What's up? We're live. How do I make this thing move? Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your guest host, Gorilla Garad. I love this thing. Hello, everybody. It's Chris. I'm your host. I was wearing this because the last Comic Tropes episode that went up on my other channel, Comic Tropes, is about gorillas. So I'm promoting it because I'm just so clever that way. All right, let's see who we've got here in the chat, and I'll explain what's going on today. Hello, let's see, we've got, I see my wife, Chrissy. I see Joe Dent. Hello to Andrew Jefferson, Big Gay Dave, Tit Goblin, Marvin Nation, Uros, Robert Weichel, Moritaka, Dave Wright, Jameel Frost, awesome. Lots of folks here to begin. Hello, Chemdog. Folks, this is going to be a good one. I promise. I've got a bunch of comics news, including some last-minute controversial news that I'll get into. I have some incredible comics from the past week, and some not-so-incredible ones. But some really exciting stuff to talk about. And I'm going to draw something, and look, if we get certain metrics, I'm prepared to give away this very rare Radiant Black variant. That means if I get either 500 concurrent members, 500 concurrent viewers on the show tonight, or 500 likes while the show is live, or somehow we raise $500 in super chats. Actually, I'll make it $460 because we raised $40 last week. I'll just keep a rolling tally. If we hit one of those metrics, any one of those three, I'll choose a random person to give this away to, okay? So we've got a really great show. Hey, it's Jim Mahfood. Nice to see you, Jim. Jim's book, Girl Scout Stone Ghost, is coming out in trade paperback pretty soon. So heads up there. Let's see. Looks like I've also got... I'm not catching everybody, but I see some more people. Hello, Keith, A-Man, B. Allen Hart, Meow Nian, James Stewart, Scrub Lord, No, Eringvu, no, Erwin Goo, Void Coupon, Dan McCoy. I'm sorry if I missed some of you. I'll do my best to monitor the chat, check in. Let's see. Let's get into the reviews first. Let's bang through these, because I have something towards the end that I'm excited to talk about. Hello, Kale Robinson. Hello, the Zarupa baby. Let's start with one of my favorite comics, Saga. And let's just take a moment to admire the covers that Fiona Staples is often giving us in terms of design. I think that there's just something very... simple and eye-catching about this one. A lot of negative space, obviously, and a fish with sort of a really nice rainbow gradient to it. I don't know. It doesn't exactly tell you a lot about what's inside, so I could understand if this doesn't necessarily get you to open the cover, but I do think it's eye-catching, and that's step one. Catch the eye. Another great issue. A lot of changes for the situation of Alana and her daughter going through space. They finally seem to be out from under the thumb of some space pirates in this one. Meanwhile, the military has this special agent working directly on the case to find them, and he's ruthless. He's probably one of the most dangerous people they've gone up against yet. Ends on an amazing cliffhanger that I just won't show because I don't want to give it away. Look, it's issue 59. It's an easy book to appreciate the story within any single issue. Of course, it is an ongoing story, but guess what? You can get like the first, it's either 50 or 55 issues for like, I think $30 or $25. There is a rainbow fish inside, yes. Folks, I love this book. I just give it a strong recommendation. That's all I can say. And I guess this guy does too. Wow, that's banana-tastic. Can you believe that that was actually my voice? Like I was... Yeah, I'm a ventriloquist. That's right. Let's move forward. Here's been the book that I didn't expect to enjoy this much, but I'm really digging it. Punisher. Written by Jason Aaron. Art by Saiz and Azaceta, depending on the pages. The Punisher is now running the Hand, a band of evil ninjas in the Marvel Universe. They have recruited him because they're corrupting him for like sort of supernatural purposes. He's using them because he can aim this army at like terrorists instead of just going after like, a drug henchman or a mule or something like that. He can take on much bigger targets, and the Hand is using their mystical abilities to bring back his family. They've already brought back his wife, and they're going to bring back his kids. But here's the big thing of this issue. It gets into the origin of the Punisher, which goes back further than we realized. Now, when the Punisher was first created, his origin was he used to be a Marine. His family got killed by a mob hit gone awry in Central Park, and he decided to take revenge on them. Then, many, many, many years later, Garth Ennis wrote a story of the Punisher set back in Vietnam, where he just like had to fight a whole army of like opposing enemies, lost a lot of buddies, and maybe that was sort of the beginning of his depravity, because he is a mass murderer. This one goes back even further to his childhood. Like Frank Castle at 10 years old, when he witnesses like a made man beat some people to death in the street, and he just cannot let it go, and he kills the guy for revenge. He just can't, and that's the beginning of the Punisher. It's interesting, and it fits. I don't feel like this is a big retcon that changes anything. It just tells us that Frank has kind of always been who he is, to a degree, He's learned to sort of hide it and like live normal, but yeah, the guy is a killer. It's an interesting issue. I like it way more than I expected to. I didn't know, hey, he's got like a different logo, and putting him up with like supernatural stuff doesn't really work a lot of the times. Punisher as an angel was just like flat out a bad call. Cool art by Bernie Wrightson just didn't really work for me. But this is working really well. I like this book quite a bit. Frank was always a psychopath, sort of. Yeah, that's what it's implying. I mean, he's got his code, but yeah, he's kind of always been messed up. Latest issue of Amazing Spider-Man that I jumped back into because I'm just, it was a jumping on point. And I haven't read Spider-Man in a while. Zeb Wells can write some stuff that sometimes can be pretty funny. I'm not loving this particular issue. I liked last issue a lot more. I thought that John Romita Jr. in the last issue was really showing that he had something to prove. Great detail, realistic. This one feels a little more rushed. It's a little bit more of his, what I'll call like sort of cartoony style, which isn't bad. It's just not my favorite, and I don't think it's most people's favorite. Like when he draws kids, you can tell that they're kids and stuff, and that's fine. And the bad guys that Zeb Wells is using are like Tombstone and White Rabbit and the Rose. I feel like those are interesting background flavor characters to Spider-Man's world. I don't necessarily find them the most interesting villains for him to go up against. And I know that like this is the early days of this run, so they're just sort of building out his world and stuff like that. But I don't get me wrong, there are some good things. Like I think that this panel is great. It's simple, but it's great. I mean, that's a great dynamic pose. There's nothing wrong with that at all. John Romita Jr. is good at using simple shapes to really represent New York, and I think he does well at that. There is stuff in this that I do like. I am not like hating on it, but I'd rather either focus more on the soap opera aspects of Peter Parker's life, if we're going to use sort of like level C grade villains, or I'd rather use a more interesting villain and spend some more time getting to know their motivations and their weirdo plans. Plus, guess what? This scene on the front of, like, Peter and MJ doesn't, like, factor in at all in this issue. I feel like that, like, it just doesn't factor in. I feel like that's a little bit of a misleading thing. Anyway, yeah, Sony is probably going to make a movie about the Rose any day now. Exactly. Yeah, it is John Romita Jr. art, and I like John Romita Jr. art for what it's worth. So I do not dislike any of this. It's just some pages aren't my favorite, but some are good. It's a little less consistent than the last issue, but certainly, you know, like just a relatively straightforward scene of Tombstone intimidating a lower ranking gangster, the crime master. It's expertly told. I mean, you could probably glance at this. You're not going to be able to read the dialogue while I have it here, but I think you can tell what's going on. That, like, Tombstone is intimidating someone, you know? Like, sneaking up on them and intimidating them. That's good storytelling. There's a lot that's being told here. Well, there's a lot we can learn through it. I just don't necessarily think all of it is exciting. But we'll see where it goes. I'm still with it, but not my favorite issue. Last issue was better. I am getting really into this new arc on Something is Killing the Children. This is issue 23, and Erica Slaughter is the main character. She is now on her own. She's not working for this, order of monster hunters. She's just on her own, and she's going up against a new monster that we haven't seen before in these books. So she's doing research. She's meeting, like, the chief of police. We're slowly getting introduced to the cast of characters here. I love Erica's design, by the way. Werther Dell'edera's art, where he often has her hair over one eye. I don't know. For some reason, that really works for me. It's a strong visual. It's a very strong visual, Erica's design. Whoops. Let me see. Andrew Jefferson with a generous super chat saying, favorite comics gorilla. Oh, great question. My favorite gorilla in comics, I mean, that was what my episode on Comic Tropes was about all last week. I would say, I'm giving it, like, some serious thought. I think Gorilla Grodd. I think he's sort of the most iconic talking gorilla. I think he's the one that got developed the most. And it's just weird that he ended up being a villain for the Flash, of all people. You know, you could almost understand him being a Superman villain or something, like really strong and really smart, right? But the idea of, like, a gorilla that's telepathic going up against a guy that's really fast, it doesn't necessarily fit, but I really do like him. Jumping back into this, the other thing I'll say is that the order that Erica Slaughter used to work for has outsourced to another family within the whole overall order this lady, who's another monster hunter, to kill Erica. And she is being built up to be she's terrible. She just kills innocent people that she just doesn't like, and the order has to cover it up because I guess she's so good at her job. So it makes the order less likable, and it makes her scary and a good threat. I think that this is pretty darn good. I definitely recommend it. Scott McCloud's Zot has a villain that de-evolves people to monkeys. I like that. Detective Chimp Yan could have been somebody that I included. It could have been. I didn't include literally every ape, primate, or gorilla character. I didn't. I had to make choices here and there because I felt like it would have slowed down my episode. And I knew that I was going to get lots of comments, which I am, about, like, hey, you forgot this or that. Well, I didn't forget. I just didn't feel like it added to the argument I was trying to make. I wasn't trying to give people a checklist. Let's see. Steve Sorensen with a super chat saying, hair over the eye, I learned Chris likes emo haircuts. Well, what do you think? I got myself a haircut, folks. I know it was getting super long for me, but I finally got a haircut. I'm going out less than I used to before the pandemic started. And while things are in a lot of ways back to normal, more or less, I do still make certain decisions to avoid crowds or close settings a bit. not completely, but like less. So I was going, like, I was intentionally just like not going to the barber as frequently, but I don't like my hair long like it was. I got it nice and short. So anyway. What up, Sean Ali? And I don't think I said hello to, let's see, I see Void Coupon, Black Phoenix, Thomas Wolfenberger, Donald Welf, Antonio Lopez. Yeah. Did Infotron do the haircut? No, I decided to go to a professional. He'd have probably gone a little low. Yeah, Ken Dog, you mentioned JL Apes, and of course there was like Marvel had a quick thing with like all the superheroes turning into various apes. Maybe I could have mentioned that like as a more recent thing, just like in passing at the end. It just wasn't part of my main discussion. The main discussion was DC Comics in the Silver Age, like how crazy they were with gorillas. And I talk a little bit about some of the other stuff, but that was the main thrust of my episode. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. Cygor. Yeah, Cygor is an interesting one. Yes, Jacob Phillips is the son of Sean Phillips, and that brings me in to this. I've talked this up before. Here's what excites me about this, just to talk about Newburn. Newburn is a crime comic where a former cop now works for all the different organized crime, not just one of them. He works for all of them as like an organization to figure out. He's like a detective that works for all of them so that there isn't like unnecessary conflict between different families. Did you pay for the haircut with Super Chat money, asks Steve Sorensen. I suppose technically I did. Yeah, sure. We'll say that 1% came from Super Chats. But this is written by Chip Zdarsky, crime comic. Each issue has sort of its own little bit of a mystery. What excites me is I've been enjoying this, okay? Chip Zdarsky is about to take over the Batman comic in July with issue 125. And he's writing good mysteries here. I think I like Batman best when he is solving mysteries. I like Detective Batman. Superhero Batman is interesting. Sci-fi Batman is interesting. James Bond going up against Ra's al Ghul version of Batman is interesting. Lots of different ways to do Batman. Horror Batman. Elseworlds versions of Batman. I like Detective Batman quite a bit. And I also like him paired up with Robin. But so when I read these mysteries that like are clever, I can't guess where it's going, but there is information that builds until like something makes sense, that clicks. You're just missing a key piece of information or two. I like it. I find the characters interesting. And this issue, we're at issue 7, and it's mostly just been about the mystery itself. We haven't really gotten to know Newburn very well. Not even really this new partner that he's taken on very well. But by the very end of this issue, a dirty cop has betrayed her, and she's being targeted by the Italian crime family, the mafia. So now we've got some personal stakes by the very end of it. It's a good escalation of things. If you haven't jumped on, it's still only issue 7. I'm sure that the trade paperback of 1 through 6 will probably be out like any day now. I like Newburn. If you like crime or mysteries, this is a damn good one. It's a damn good one. Hey, speaking of Batman, Batman Beyond the White Knight. I loved Batman White Knight by Sean Gordon Murphy. I thought it was awesome. I love Sean Gordon Murphy's art. It's just a certain style that really speaks to me. I remember he caught my eye on a book that he did with Grant Morrison where they wrote a story about a diabetic kid who needs to get his insulin, and he starts hallucinating that all of his toys have come to life and they're guiding him on like a quest to get to something special, which is really his insulin. He's like struggling through his house. He's by himself, alone at night. It was really cool. I'm trying to remember what... Joe the Barbarian it was called. Joe the Barbarian. That's when I first noticed Sean Gordon Murphy's art. Gotta pause for a super chat. I think did I miss a super chat? Oh, hello, my sister's here. Hi, Jeannie. No, I didn't miss a super chat, but let's see this one. I should have talked about Commandy, shouldn't I? By Jack Kirby, was supposed to be a Planet of the Apes tie-in comic, or that is what they were going for. But yeah, pretty dope. Let's go Mets, says Steve Sorensen. Thank you for the super chat, Steve. I could have talked about Commandy because The Last Boy on Earth, it does have gorillas in it. That could have been cool. Anyway, loved White Knight. This is like an alternative reality Batman story. It's like become a whole world. In White Knight, Joker was abused by Batman. He shoved some chemicals in Joker's mouth. It actually turned him sane. And Batman was sort of going out of control, but Joker was now sane, and he was running on an anti-vigilante platform as a politician. Then the sequel introduced mythology of the Order of Saint Dumas and Azrael, and I just didn't quite connect to the sequel story as much. Loved the art, didn't care as much about the story. This third story jumps into the future. Bruce Wayne is now an old man. He's basically, he's been in jail for a while. A business partner at Wayne, Derek Powers, has betrayed him and has tricked this young kid, Terry McGinnis, into stealing Bruce's Batman Beyond suit. So this is sort of a riff on the Batman Beyond stuff, but it still uses characters that Sean Gordon Murphy has established before. We've got Duke Thomas. We've got Barbara Gordon. We have Dick Grayson. We have all sorts of stuff. By the way, does that panel look familiar? That looks a lot like Spider-Man 2099, doesn't it? And if you look really closely, I don't really have a way to zoom in well, but this says, apologies to Leonardi. He's apologizing to Rick Leonardi for stealing the pose. But I think as long as you acknowledge it, that's totally fine. Reference is fine. Homage is fine. It's all about just being honest with that stuff. It looks great. We've got Batman going up against Batman, essentially. Old man Batman and Terry in the Batman Beyond outfit both don't have all the information they need, so they're butting heads. It's cool, man. Old versus new, experience versus technology. I don't know. It's great. It's a really, really fun pastiche. You could enjoy this if you've read no Batman, because it doesn't build on decades of actual comic history. You could enjoy this if you do know that history, because it's riffing on it and giving you something new. Or if you've just seen the animated shows, you're going to see that stuff remixed into a new idea. So there's a lot to recommend about Batman Beyond the White Knight. Book 3 is great. And what I love about these Black Label books specifically, folks, at the back, they always show a few black and white penciled pages for the upcoming issue. And I always find process shots interesting. I really do. So I like that quite a bit. Yeah, the Beyond suit is gorgeous, isn't it, Cup? It's a great design. They killed it. All right. I picked up issue 1 of I Hate This Place. There is also a variant title to this title called Fuck This Place, which is awesome. But at the last minute, the creators and the publisher were like, yeah, we probably should come up with a more palatable title that we can put out there for when we want to have press write-ups and stuff like that. You can't always swear. This is a horror book. Kyle Starks has written some really funny stuff, but he's apparently quite good with horror as well. These two women are moving to, one of them has just inherited a farm, okay? A farm from an aunt that she didn't really have a lot of contact with, but there was no other family. They go there and find what? They find so many weird things. There are ghosts. Okay, that's weird. There also seem to be maybe aliens or UFOs of some sort. And they're warned about a guy in the woods that has deer antlers. Just some sort of a monster. How does any of this fit together? I have no idea. But there's a warning that once you go there, you're safe in the house, but the supernatural forces or whatever it is are not going to let you leave. It's bonkers as hell, and it's honestly, it's funny and creepy. The vibe I got when reading this was, what was that movie? Cabin in the Woods. If you've ever seen that movie. Cabin in the Woods or Evil Dead, where there's a bit of humor, but it's also like really creepy, scary stakes. It's cool, man. I'm so glad I picked this up. I think this came out like a week or maybe even 2 weeks ago, and I missed it then. Glad I picked it up. I'm loving it. I like horror, and it's cool. Yeah, it's got ghosts. All right, this is the last new comic I picked up. Then I've got a couple more little things that I'll talk about before I get into the news. Evil Sweet Tooth, maybe. Radiant Red. If this is in the Radiant Black world. Written by Chen. One of the big draws, art by David Lafuente. Really pleasant to look at. Clean, crisp style. Thick, bold lines. Maybe a little bit of a manga look to it, but American storytelling. And this main girl that got like these Radiant Red powers is being blackmailed to help with a heist. And I love heist tropes when it's done well. As in, like, all this planning. So she's, like, training to use her powers in a certain way that would help them steal something. So it's all about planning, and, you know, she can't quite get them to work right. So you're like, how's this going to work at the last minute? I don't know. I like heists because it's like you plan every step, and then, of course, once the actual thing goes to execute and you know what should happen, little things keep going wrong, and the characters have to improvise to get around it. I like that. So anyway, this is fun. This is fun. I prefer Radiant Black over this for story, but Radiant Red is fun, and the art is cool. So, that's every comic that I bought, but I definitely wanted to take a moment to acknowledge this, which is Wizard with an E, the Comics Magazine. This is the second issue of Wizard. And look at how thick that is. This is published on demand, printed on demand, I should say, but published through something called Cosmic Lion Comics by a guy named Eli Schwab. And Eli and almost all the artists in here, if not every artist, met on the Facebook page that is a fan of the YouTube channel Cartoonist Kayfabe, a comic book YouTube channel. And what does it have? It has interviews with tons of different professionals across the spectrum. Lots of indie guys, but a few like that are a little more mainstream as well. We've got a few different features, like sort of essays about various comic stuff. And we've got lots of indie comics. Lots of indie comics. I mean, look at the size of this thing. This is great. If you want to find this, you can go to like that. It's the cartoon. It's called Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside Seats. That's the Facebook group. Very active discussion group about comics in general. Very active. Or you could go to Eli's company, Cosmic Lion Comics with an X. Just look that up, and you can order one of these. And let's take a look at what it is, because I only flipped through very loosely. Oh, that's cool. It's a pinup by an artist named Ken Landgraf. That's like a superhero version of Eli, I take it. A lot of different photos of the people that worked on this book at comic conventions. Oh, wow. Look at that. There's Jack Kirby. Wait. Jim Mahfood, are you still here? 'Cause is that you? Is that? I can't tell. Hey, Keith. Let me know. Sorry, I'm looking at that and that just looks like you, but I could be wrong. Look at that. Ken Landgraf drew the Cartoonist Kayfabe guys as superheroes. Books about making comics. I can't look at every page. This is too big. Let's just flip through a little. We'll see what kind of stuff like catches the eye. Obviously, there's going to be all sorts of indie styles, but you know what? That is you, Jim? That's hilarious. Oh, all right. Let me jump back. You got to meet Jack Kirby? You look like a baby there. I'm not trying to be a wise ass or anything. You look so young, but all of a sudden I'm looking at it going like, wait, I've met Jim. That looks like Jim. That's so cool that you got to meet Jack Kirby. Oh, I'm excited. That's really, really cool. Oh, cool. 17 years old. 17 years old at San Diego Comic-Con 1992. Oh my God. I love it. I love it, Jim. I had no idea that was in there. Like I said, I haven't really seen everything. I can't go over every page. Oh, I love that. Looks like this is by Mike Manley, done in a, what do you call it, Bill Watterson style of the cartoonist kayfabe boys. That's good. Oh, so we've got ads in here. We've got a couple ads. We've got like parody comics. That's nice. Look at this. This is great. There's so much passion here. Yep, ads for like some of the comics that these guys are contributing. Wow. There's so much you could like sort of get inspired or influenced by. Oh, that's pretty. This is that Attaboy comic. I haven't read that yet. That's nice that they've got like a few pages of this. Tony McMillan. I think he does this online. Attaboy. That's, by the way, that's a good logo. The ATTA, like all fitting within triangles. That's a really good logo. That's nice. Is issue 2 going to be available as a PDF? I think it might be, Jeff. I think it might be a cheaper version to get a PDF. Yeah. Where can I get that magazine from? Like I say, go to Cosmic Lion Comics. Just look that up. Or just probably if you typed in Wizard, I bet you'd find it. But it's called Cosmic Lion Comics. They've got a website where you can order these. Eli sent this to me, which is super kind of him. Rocco Jerome, I know I've seen him comment on some of my videos, but I know he's active in this cartoonist kayfabe thing. Ghost Agents. Ghost Agents is by Sam Royale, I believe, who did this cover. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I think that's what that is. Look at all of these different comics and interviews. This is so cool. You have to be into indie stuff, but I bet you're going to find some stuff no matter what in this that interests you. Wow, an interview with Shaky Kane. That's a pretty modern, popular creator. That's cool. That's cool. Hey, look at that. Eli. Eli made it into the chat. Look at that. I'm sorry. I wasn't catching everything. Hello, Ven. Nice to have you here. Eli. Can you speak? This is print on demand, right? And if people go to Cosmic Lion Comics, go ahead and like plug in like the chat, like mention, because a couple people have asked where they can get it. And I think if you look up Cosmic Lion Comics, you can like order a copy. I believe that's the case. I'm just sort of flipping through, seeing what catches my eye. I love the color on this. The art is different, but the color is great there. It's very consistent. Brian Talbot wrote an article. I love it. I love it. Oh, look, talking about Octobriana. And Andrew Jefferson says, are all the words misspelled or just on the cover? You say misspelled. It's meant to be this, because it's a pastiche or a take on Wizard, the Guide to Comics, if you remember that from basically the 90s, although it continued. But it's indie and it's its own thing. It's a fanzine in the best sense of the word. This is a well-done fanzine. Let's see. Hello, Daniel. Thanks for coming here. Hello, Adam Hart. Let's see. I demanded 500 copies and I've got that much. Okay, so you've got some copies, but I assume if it sells out, you might make some more, a second printing. They are selling fast, but we have some left. Good. Yeah, I think a lot, like anybody could find something interesting in there. Oh, I like that art quite a bit. That's nice and clean. Good variety. Nice, not screen tones, but gray tones. Nice gray tones. I like that. Twin Peaks would make a damn fine comic. Oh my God, I totally agree. In fact, now that I think of it, like David Lynch, director, co-creator, often a writer of Twin Peaks, he's a cartoonist as well. sometimes I'm surprised that idea hasn't like necessarily been pitched. I wonder, maybe he'd want to have more control over it, but like not want to do it himself, so maybe that's what blocks it. But Twin Peaks would work really well as a comic. I agree with that. Maybe a second print, maybe. Okay. Yeah, brings back memories of the actual wizard, says Meonian. Exactly, a wide variety of different things. I love this. Bootleg G.I. Joe. Yeah. Got some pretty bright colors. I believe this was Ripcord, Snake Eyes, Lady J, Destro. I don't know about that guy. Cool stuff, though. Oh, wow, that's some very dramatic, eye-catching artwork. Schleppzig drew that. Okay. I like what they've done with the screen tones. I do. That's very eye-catching. I can't look at every page. Like, I gotta keep moving with this show, but... Oh, wow, cool. An interview with Rick Veitch. Big fan of Rick Veitch. Obviously done an episode about his work before on Comic Tropes. Afghan Surprise. This stuff, like, reminds me of walking down the aisle at, well, I guess any artist alley at a convention, but it really reminds me of going to, like, SPX, the Small Press Expo. Oh, that's a riff on the famous Platoon cover. A lot of interesting textures used there. You still have a ton of Wizard magazines, Chemdog? I got rid of all mine at a certain point, but I wish I'd kept a couple of the early ones. Dan Panosian, great artist, often draws live for Artist Drink and Draw, stuff like that. An ad for some other stuff that Eli's imprint is publishing. That's pretty cool. Look at all this stuff. So many different styles. Bernie Moreau. Wow. Bernie Moreau did some Grendel work. Nice. It would be very interesting to read this and catch up with what he's doing. Oh, that's beautiful, actually. Wow. I like that style. Little bit of Jack Kirby influence in some of this art. Cut mine up and had them all over the room. The short-lived Hero magazine. I remember Hero magazine. There were a couple other like magazines that like really tried to get in the game when Wizard was taking off, and some that kept going, like the Comics Journal. Look at that! Wow. I don't know. Like I'm like guys. I'm not even halfway through. I can't look at everything. I guess, and I feel bad because everybody that worked on this deserves credit. You know, I would love to just call everyone out, but this is so big that, like, that it would be more entertaining for you to actually read this than to just hear me list all of the people that did things in this. That's eye-catching, too. Some of this stuff really, like, I pause because certain things... Palmer's picks. Oh, by Tom Palmer Jr. Look at that. Tom Palmer used to have a column in the actual Wizard magazine where he'd call out more indie comics and stuff. Not really the stuff Wizard would focus on as much. That's so cool that you got him to do something here. Well done. Well done, Eli. Very nice. Bernie Moreau used to live in my city when he worked at Digital Chameleon coloring comics. Oh, look at that. Brandon Graham trying to make a comeback through cartoonist kayfabe Wizard after getting canceled. I don't think I know Brandon Graham, but there's Brandon Graham. Don't think I know his work, to be honest, but there's an interview here with Eli. Hey, look at that. An ad for Jim's book. Look at that. That's so cool. How much is it? Oh, good question, Marvin. Eli, how much is it? Can you tell us? I don't see a price listed on it, so I'm not sure. All I can tell you is it's humongous. Look at this. Talking about Craig CK. Now, Craig was an early guy that was watching my show, had a lot of nice comments, was pretty generous with super chats when I was just starting out, and I remember telling him about the Cartoonist Kayfabe show, and I believe he's like a huge, huge supporter of that now. I think he's a tattoo artist up in Canada. Great guy. Great guy. He made this like logo. Jack Kirby, but sort of that MLB logo too. That's a great logo. That's great. There's a lot to like in here, folks. I'm about to move on, but there's a lot to like here. Bikers, zombie bikers, or bikers from hell, something like that. That's cool. Nathan Grixty. I don't know Nathan Grixty. There's a bunch of stuff that I could learn in here. So I'm not going to try to pretend like I'm an expert. But I like what I see. Very, very much. So many different styles. A little bit of a funny superhero thing. Stuperman. Stuperman. There you go. Dig it. Dig it. Michael... Oh, no. Michelle Fife. Michelle Fife. Very unique, innovative artist. That's cool. An interview with Michelle. What else? Oh, hold on. Hold on. This looks familiar. Folks, I think I have some art, so let me slow down. I remember one of these guys... Yeah. How do I pronounce that? Is that pronounced Jose, or is that pronounced Joshua? I don't know. Oh, John Dorsey with a super chat. Good evening to my favorite live comic stream host. Thank you. May as well contribute to the variant giveaway threshold. You know, all hail Tropes Nation. We're getting closer and closer. We're getting closer and closer. Yeah, this book is loaded. I hope I can get a copy before it sells out. This is impressive. Yeah, this guy approached me and asked me to do an illustration for, like, the idea of, like, Kingdom Come done in the 90s. Yep, there it is. Look at that. That's a pretty tiny contribution to this, but I did do an illustration. I didn't realize it was going to be in this. That's cool. It was a version of Batwoman on this, like, winged wolf. I don't know. That's not my best work now that I look at it, but whatever. Some more ads, some more interviews. Oh my god. Everything from black and white to full color. I love that there's so much color in this, to be honest. It feels like this is just incredible. Kirby versus Ditko in the same panel? Oh, that sounds super interesting to read about. Black Magic number 27 from 1953 has both Ditko and Kirby art in it. Okay. In the same story. Have to read that. Oh, I know this. I didn't know this was in here, but Troy Allen was a friend of mine when I lived in D.C., and I know he made a tribute comic to MF Doom about his life when he passed away, so I guess that's an ad for that. Oh, no, it's the actual comic. Whoa! Way to go, Troy. Troy wrote this, hired some artists to work with him, but that's great. Yeah, that's great. Way to go. Way to go. Well, oh, look at that. A checklist for something. A checklist for Alan Moore work. In alphabetical order. Alphabetical order. That's different. What's this? Indie price guide. I thought I was just seeing a price guide. Did I? Oh, I did. Yeah. Ah! Folks, this is hilarious. Okay. Okay. Wizard always had a price guide take up like almost half of the back of their thing. This is showing 1991 prices and then the prices today. So let's like look at something popular like, okay, Ghost Rider issue 1, then $95, now $30. Punisher War Journal, then $17, now $10. Spider-Man, then $25, now $10. Yeah, everything's gone down. That's funny because that speaks to how Wizard was always pushing the speculation of comics. And I don't know how intentional that was. I suspect it was fairly intentional. I didn't know that as a kid, I guess. I thought it was like an actual resource, but they're sort of controlling it, which actually makes the prices real. That's funny, showing like what it was then and how it's almost all gone downhill. Oh, except for this, look. Long Shot number 1, then 14, now 22. What did I show you that I picked up last week? Look at that. That's funny. Long Shot number 1. That looks like the only book in here where the price has actually gone up since then. Oh no, there's a Marvel Comics Presents that also went up. But one of the few things that went up, because I saw that it was a good deal. Well, congratulations to everyone that worked on this book. Obviously, huge congratulations to Eli for getting all these different creators to turn in their work in time. I know that like some people are more into just like mainstream superheroes or maybe just horror or just crime, just sci-fi. It doesn't matter. This is obviously more indie, but I love indie because there's always a lot of passion behind that stuff. And that's really, really cool. That's really, really cool. Look at how thick that is. So I wanted to flip through that. I wish I could call out every single creator on every single page, but you saw how big that is. That would take forever. Last things I'll just point out that I picked up. Not really full reviews. Picked up some back issues. Finally found myself a copy of Star Wars 39. Why did I want that? The adaptation of Empire Strikes Back has artwork by Al Williamson that is gorgeous. Just gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. So, always sort of wanted that. Finally got a copy. A Dark Horse annual. Dark Horse Presents annual. I liked Sin City and Aliens, so that'll be fun to look back at. It'll be interesting to look at John Byrne's Next Men, but I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of that. But that was cool. Yeah, it's both thicks, Andrew Jefferson. It's THICK and it's THICC. Happy to give you a shout out, Eli. Impressive work, my friend. And I picked up an old issue of Fantastic Four. This is probably John Byrne at his best. Obviously, his most popular was probably on X-Men, but I think his best work was when he was writing and drawing Fantastic Four. I think he was very, very invested in making it, a great comic again. And this particular issue is Sue Storm fighting for the life of her son. And, yeah, obviously, the Fantastic Four having kids is canon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now, so that's what makes it mean something. I'm just kidding around. Also picked up a crowdfunded book that I had supported, the second issue of Jeff Smith's Tukey. If you've ever read Bone or Wrassle, Jeff Smith has a new book, and it's based in history, actual like anthropology. It is about a time, about 2 million years ago, to be honest, when there were several different how would I classify this? I'm not an anthropologist or a scientist, so sometimes I forget the correct terminology. But there were several different hominids that were close to mankind living simultaneously. That's the weird thing about evolution is like what became mankind lived, but there were other sort of compatible versions of humanity that were living at the same time that would look slightly different, but were technically, classified as a different, I think species is the right term, but I could be wrong there. Anyway, so it involves, look, if I want to just talk like, without any technical terms, a bunch of different types of cavemen living alive. But it is a real thing. There is plenty of actual evidence for various primates and hominids living side by side. And it's gorgeous, and it's exciting, and it's cool that he's doing it in a different format. Look at this landscape instead of a portrait. Most comics would be like this, flipping around, but this one's like this. There's not as many like that. But yeah, so I supported that Kickstarter. Happy to get that. All right, now I'm going to draw something. This week, I drew and already light boxed, but I need to ink Captain Pike and Spock from their versions specifically from Strange New Worlds. Folks, I like Star Trek. I literally love Strange New Worlds. I think it's about the best Star Trek there is. It's positive, it's interesting, it's good. It deals with current issues, but in a sci-fi setting, dealing with ways to stop a weird infectious disease or dealing with wars. but like putting it with like, alien cultures and stuff like that. And every episode, they just are the best version of humanity, and they solve a problem. It's so good. It's really, really nice. But this also means that I get to start talking about the news of the week. Before I even pull this one up, one piece happened like almost today. This is some pretty controversial news. Yeah, Spock from Strange New Worlds is pretty buff. I guess so. Did I get Spock's rippling muscles? Hey, Spock was always, like, canonically supposed to be strong. This actor maybe just worked out a little bit more than Leonard Nimoy at the same age. But I think Ethan Peck is doing a very good job. I would argue it feels much more authentic to Spock than the Zachary Quinto version in the movies, which I have nothing against. I just think that this feels more like the Spock I know, because no matter what, Leonard Nimoy defined who that character was. And those are big shoes to fill. They really are. But, okay, so, the news. First of all, in Toronto, there's a Comic-Con coming up. It's called the Toronto Comics and Arts Festival, okay? Pretty big event, actually. And it always focuses on creator-owned comics, creator-owned stuff. Well, they've got somebody coming that a lot of people are not too happy about. The artist does daily comics on her Instagram that are called Pink Cat. And she has now gotten into procedurally generated NFTs. And, yeah, people are not happy that she is one of the featured guests at this event. A lot of people in comics are doing NFTs, and a lot more, I would say, people are looking at it as those are a potential scam. It's not based on anything of actual value. And so yeah, like there's been a lot of call for like this artist to not be there, and that becomes controversial because the creator is a young Muslim woman, and obviously comics are predominantly like white males, so it doesn't have good optics that a bunch of men are like, hey, get her out of here. But I see the argument, but there's a second component to it. This lady has been shown to literally trace a lot of other artists. She still gives it sort of her own style. I'm not going to say she doesn't, but for instance, there's a lot of Jamie Hewlett's Tank Girl that she has copied and just sort of inserted her Pink Cat lady character instead of Tank Girl. So some people are pretty upset about that. Well, I was talking earlier about how I was looking at the Batman comic and how there was an homage to a pose by Rick Leonardi, but artist Sean Gordon Murphy literally spelled it out. He didn't try to hide that he was using that pose. He literally said apologies too, but he was very upfront about it. And I think that makes a difference. I think if you just own up to, is something referenced? Clearly, I looked at photographs of actor Anson Mount and actor Ethan Peck to get the likenesses right for this. I don't think that should come as a surprise to anyone. But let's see, Wizards will still be available at TCAF. I'll be there. Very cool. There's a lot of great creators that will be at TCAF. I really wish I could go. I won't be, but I'm sure it'll be a great event. But anyway, there's definitely some controversy. Not sure where everybody here would stand on it, but a lot of people not happy that the artist traces. A lot of people not happy that it's really more to sell NFTs than like actual physical comics of any kind. I don't think we'll have a firm answer on this debate anytime soon. I think this will take a while to resolve. Yeah. Hey, Mandela Butterfly, welcome. TCAF, is that a convention? Yes. Again, Toronto Comics Arts Festival. Toronto Comics Arts Festival. Anyway, but that was the first piece of news. Super chat from John Dorsey. Dude, this show, Strange New Worlds, has been a revelation. Didn't know you were into Star Trek. Yeah, I like Star Trek. So much to like. Mount's acting when he was so relieved. Oh my gosh. Anson Mount, first thing I saw him in, that I at least knew that I was seeing him, was, of course, the Inhumans TV show. And that was bad. I gave up on that pretty fast. But now that I have seen what he can do as Captain Christopher Pike, it's just more evidence that that was really just bad writing, that the actors really weren't to blame for that. And I didn't think they were, because the guy who played Maximus had been good on both Game of Thrones and what was that British show about superhero teens? Oh, they were all like delinquents or something, and now I can't remember the name of that show. It was like 3 or 4 seasons, and he was good on that for the first 2 seasons. So I strongly suspected that like it was really the writing and like a cheap budget that was making Inhumans not so great, not the actors. But like seeing Anson Mount on Strange New Worlds, there is an argument to be made, which is, a fairly strong argument, or it carries some weight, that he might be the best captain in Star Trek. And when you've got people that love Picard and Kirk, or even, I love Deep Space Nine, that was Captain Sisko, or maybe somebody else, but like some great captains, some great characters. To argue already that he might be one of the best is definitely saying something, and there's an argument to be made there. Yeah, it's crazy that he's Black Bolt. I mean, he definitely has had a good several months here with both Star Trek and being Black Bolt. But he's good, folks. He's really good. You'd think like, oh, well, we already knew we liked Spock, right? So like seeing him on the show, that's going to be the main draw. I would argue the main draw is definitely Captain Pike. He's the whole supporting cast is interesting and cool. It really is. But it's all about Captain Pike. And they've done a really interesting thing with him where he was on that show Discovery, the Star Trek show, and he learned how he would die. He knows exactly when that will happen and like what it'll feel like and everything. And he's still, and it's terrible. It like really, really traumatized him in a massive way. And that's canon. If you've ever watched like old Star Trek, we know that something horrible happens to Captain Pike one day. And that's why Kirk is eventually given control of the Enterprise and Spock is, stays on and stuff. That's all canon. That happened in the original series. But it's really interesting seeing how he deals with that and how he makes a decision to make the most of his life and not just sort of give up and hide and waste away. It's good. It's really positive. It's really positive. It's great. So let me move on, and I'll get to the next piece of news. I've got a bunch of news this time. Probably not quite as much as last time when we went through every single nominee for the Eisners, but still a lot of news. That was a big episode. Thank you if you were here for that. That meant a lot to me. Yeah, people do have tragic backgrounds on Jeff Yun. I agree. A lot of them do have a tragic background. But it isn't dwelt on as a bad thing. They're all taking very proactive, positive steps to get past that and not let that tragedy define them 100%. I like that. I like that they seem to just, they have that, they acknowledge it, and they move on. Life is tough. Some of us have like really bad things happen. The most impressive thing we can do is to find a way to manage it and keep moving forward. And I find the characters heroic for that. Am I interested in DC's Dark Crisis? Interesting question. Am I interested? Maybe morbidly curious is probably the best way to define it. I'm curious what they will do with the idea. Is it something I'm like super excited to read every issue? Not exactly. Not exactly. Wow, Mian Yan, thank you for the Canadian super chat. The Andorian dude reminds me of Jeffrey Combs. I'm wondering if the actor made a choice to do that. I like that. They've got an alien who's the chief engineer, and he's actually blind, but he uses all of his other senses to a high degree. It's really good. All right. First piece of news I want to talk about is a new DC Comics theme park, sort of. In the Illinois area, they have a Six Flags. Six Flags Great America. And they've always had a few DC-themed things. It's a Warner Brothers theme park. I think anyone who's been there knows that, like, Six Flags is not on the same level as, like, a Disney or even a Universal Studios. He's not an Andorian? Oh. I thought he was an Andorian. Okay. Oh, he's blind in real life? That's interesting. But anyway, so this theme park has redone a ton of their rides for this summer and added some new DC Comics rides. So let's talk about that. There's 3 new DC Comics rides. There is the Flash Vertical Velocity. That's a high-speed launch roller coaster. Like, it just shoots you out from the beginning. There's the Aquaman Splashdown. That's a winding flume ride that has, like, a huge drop at the end. Cool. Those are always fun. And there's the DC Super Villains Swing. They describe that as a spinning attraction twirling guests in a 360-degree orbit, so you could get hurled any direction. And then they still have things like, Batman the Ride and the Joker Free Fly roller coaster. But, if your thing is DC and you're in the Chicago sort of area, maybe you'd want to check that out and see what these new superhero-themed rides are like. It sounds fun. I think it sounds fun anyway. DC supervillains are swingers. Canonically, DC, every single one is now defined as a swinger. I'd have given it to Gorilla Grodd. I'm surprised at somebody that's maybe more uptight like Lex Luthor, but hey, we don't make the rules. DC does. DC does. It's still a Six Flag operation, though. If so, I think it'll be good. You can count on the Six Flags quality to be consistent. I like Six Flags. I can't say that I quite have the same amount of fun at a Six Flags as when I've been to theme parks like Disney or even Universal Studios. And I would say that Disney is the best out of a theme park. I really do think that they do something special there. I'm trying to think if there's any other big theme parks that I've been to aside from that. I don't know. If this year Chrissy and I do, in fact, go back to Japan, we're planning on going to the Universal Studios Japan because they have that Super Mario World. I'd be curious to see that. I should do a pros and cons stream at that theme park. Man, that would be fun, but it's nowhere near me. But didn't someone get decapitated by Nightwing the Ride? I don't think so, but I did once write an article on an old blog about, like, the grisly deaths that have happened at theme parks, and my God, there are some nightmares. There are some really, really terrifying things that have happened, at basically every theme park. It's, every single one. And some of them are, like, the passengers having done something stupid, and some of them are ride malfunctions, but there was at Disney, there's, like, sort of a fake boat moored at, what's it called? Like, Treasure Island or something like that? Some sort of island or something. And it's supposed to be roped up, but somebody used more like a bungee cord. A long bungee cord of some sort. Something like really stretchy. And it was like because of just being on the water, the thing would like ebb and flow. And it was really, really stretching. And it stretched so much that it finally broke off the metal, like, mooring. And the thing, like, that whole line whipped across a line of people so fast that it, like, basically cut a bunch of people in half. Horrific. Horrific. Look it up. There's some really... Well, look it up if you're strong of stomach. I shouldn't just say look it up, because there's some grisly stuff out there. And I won't go into all of them. But there's some really bad deaths that have happened at theme parks over the years. Anyway, let's talk about something more positive. Here's one that's kind of funny. All right. I would give anything to die at Super Mario World. Go out with a bang, not a whimper. That's very brave of you, Carrie. Chris, you should hit the new Ghibli theme park. I've been to the Ghibli theme park. I don't know what they added that's new, but I have been to it before, and it's not like a park with rides, but it is gorgeous, and you can learn a lot about art and the creation of various movies. Let me rework something here. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just like figuring something out. Yeah. Okay. Imagine a New Gods ride where you ride Orion's Astro Harness and get flung back and forth. That sounds fun. The Defunct Land YouTube channel covers decommissioned rides. Oh, yeah. I've seen that a few times. Yeah. Yes, Meow Neon, that was unintentional, actually. All right. So, the next thing I want to mention is... I think it's a kind of funny piece of news. So let's lighten the mood a little bit. Deadline is one of the trade publications that reports on Hollywood news. They reported that there is an unnamed superhero movie coming out in 2023 that when it got submitted to the Writers Guild of America for like writing credit, it was discovered that it had 45 writers. Now, they did not list what superhero movie that was, but we know which superhero movies are coming out next year. There's stuff like Aquaman, I think Black Panther 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. None of those really make sense. But tell you what I think makes sense, and I think a bunch of other people think makes sense, that Flash movie, which had been delayed and rebooted and remade, like, tons of different ideas. I think that that's the one they're talking about. I think that, yeah, Action Park is a fascinating park to read up on in New Jersey. No, there's no Morbius 2 announced yet. No Morbius 2 announced yet. But I think that 45 writers, folks, that's an insane. I can't think of a movie that comes close to that. I feel like that there was a bad Flintstones movie that was like yelled at for having like 13 writers, 45 different people contributing to a script. How are you going to have any amount of consistency there if you're taking that many ideas? I know some of it might be very, very minor, but like just crazy to think that like they kept working on the same idea for that long and it was never like just outright canceled and started fresh. 45 people. I think it's The Flash. I don't know what else makes sense. Like, if you've got another idea of like a superhero movie coming out next year that you think it even could be, please speak up, because I don't know what else it even possibly could be. Even I contributed to writing that Flash movie. Right. Odds are one of you watching this show tonight may have contributed to the Flash movie. I don't know. Ezra Miller has turned into a real-life supervillain. Yeah, they have. It has to be a Sony comic movie. I don't know. I think it's The Flash. I do. Because The Flash had been in development for a very long time. And it never quite got canceled. It would like go through different announced directors and like premiere times and stuff. I don't know. That's my best guess. I'll hear out any other arguments to be made, but that's my guess. I don't know why films and shows need multiple writers. Why can't one person just write for them? Consistency. Look, I can understand writing partners. I can even understand sometimes getting punch up, for things like dialogue or like last minute, like realizing, hey, you know what, we moved this into development, but a little bit of it needs to be worked on for like, a monologue or something. I can understand why a couple writers can get added for like, smaller roles, but not 45. Nothing even close to that. That is just insanity. Like, I don't know how you're expected to deliver anything that resembles something good with that many writers. That's crazy. Maybe Black Adam. That seems like it had been sort of announced a while ago. Yeah, I guess that's possible. That's possible. I would say if it was between the two, I'd lean towards the Flash. But yeah, you've got a point. The Black Adam was in development for a long time. That's a long time. Nice to see you here, Tari. Yes. Folks, how many people out there have now made the "it's Morbin time" joke? That might be the most repeated joke out there in the world. More than, why did the chicken cross the road? Anyway, I'll move on to other news. I just thought that one was kind of amusing. Like, no matter what. Yeah, Picard does have a lot of producers. I've seen that, Tit Goblin, because I watched that show and it was fine. Some episodes were good, some episodes were not so good. It was fine. It wasn't very good. It was a letdown for what they could have done, but whatever. It was fine. But the opening credits have the most producers I've seen on any show ever. Here's something more just flat out just comic book news, not like comic book related or something. Batman is getting a new creative team soon. That part we already knew. That had been announced a while ago, that Chip Zdarsky is taking over as the writer on the main Batman title with artist Jorge Jimenez, who's just incredible. Like, that's an exciting team. I like the sound of that. So they're taking over this July with issue 125, and to promote it, I thought this was cool. DC made like an animated trailer, like an animated comics trailer, not like a fully animated thing. But it looked cool, it just showed that they were like really hyping it up and like making a big deal of it, that they're putting a lot of faith into it. It costs something to do that. They don't do that for every single comic out there. Usually a publisher is doing that if they've got like faith that this is, something that can get them a return on investment. So that's encouraging. And they say the first arc is going to be called, I've got it written down here, Failsafe. Supposedly it involves a bunch of Gotham's wealthy being targeted. Writer Chip Zdarsky has said one thing he plans to do is he's a big fan of Tim Drake, that version of Robin, and he likes Batman and Robin, so he's going to be bringing Tim Drake back into the main title in an important way. I liked hearing that. I also really like Tim Drake. That was the main Robin I was growing up with. I was reading Batman before Tim Drake, but that was like the one I think I've read the most of, just because of when I started reading the comic and everything. So anyway, could be cool. Let's see. Chip is fine as a writer, says one person. Nice. Chip Zdarsky, Chip's Daredevil has been phenomenal. That's a great move on DC's part. Okay. Let's see. Anybody else? Tim Drake is a positive. Yep, I agree. Nice to see that. I think that's a character that does very well when he's in the Batman title. He and Batman have an interesting dynamic. There's probably too many Robins, to be fair. There really probably are. What do we have, like 4 active ones right now? Because we've got, like, and I know they're not all Robin anymore, but they're all still active. Like, we've got Tim Drake, Damian Wayne, whoever the Red Hood is, whoever Nightwing is. Like, that's at least 4. There might even be a couple others that I'm not really thinking of that are still sort of active. That's too many Robins. Am I familiar with Marcelo Quintanilla? No. I'm sorry, I'm not. Funny how Tim is fated to be evil Batman. Oh, I didn't know anything about that. I thought Chip was going to focus on creator-owned comics when Sex Criminals started, but it looks like he's been focusing more on writing Big 2 comics. I think he's dividing his time pretty evenly, BB, because he is still doing some of his creator-owned stuff, I think, on Substack, if I'm remembering right. And he just also is taking, some big gigs for, like, the Big 2. Some of the bigger characters. Any good new indies I would recommend? Looking for a few non-superhero series. Non-superhero, okay. Some of the stuff that I've been talking up in recent days, like, I'm just taking a quick look at, like, what I've been reading lately. I liked We Have Demons. That's by Snyder and Capullo. I love Saga. Saga is fantastic. What else? Just today, I liked I Hate This Place. One of the biggest ones I'd recommend, if you can find it, is Cursed Pirate Girl. I think that one's just insanely good. That's a great indie book to try to find. That's through Boom Studios. Over at Dynamite, I've been enjoying the Immortal Red Sonja. I've been enjoying that quite a bit. So those are a few that I would point out. Tim Drake is by. Yep. Indies. Have you guys read Concrete? I love Concrete. I should probably do an episode about that someday. Definitely admire Paul Chadwick quite a bit. He's very talented. Yeah, can't say enough nice things really about him. Kaiju Max is one of my favorite indies. Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about Kaiju Max, and you know what? Oni Press did give me a trade paperback of that, and I'm sorry, I haven't gotten around to reading it. Everybody tells me that Xander Cannon did a great job on that book, so I feel bad. I haven't read it yet. There's just so many comics. Sometimes I'm behind. Sigma Comics with a donation. Indies, here comes Calico 5 on Kickstarter. Have to admit, I haven't heard about that one. I'm assuming it's yours. Haven't heard about it. Do you remember what background music did you use for the Grendel video? I don't remember, BB, but I'm gonna guess it would have been something that was like, copyright free. So like when you're a YouTuber, YouTube like has an audio library that you can use of stuff that they've already approved or like bought that you can use. So I'm gonna guess it's just some sort of generic music like that I got from that off the top of my head. If it was anything else, I would have had it in the credits. Hey, wow, look at that. Haven't seen you in a while, Craig CK, but super chat from Craig CK. Craig, just want you to know, I looked through Wizard and talked up how you've always been a great supporter of my channel, how you support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel, the great stuff that you do. So, yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Love your tropes. I'm usually tattooing when these are going. I totally understand. We've all got to work. I've only seen a little bit of your work, though, Craig. Do you have that online anywhere? Like, if we were curious to see your work as a tattoo artist, is that something that you've shared or made public? You don't have to share if you're not comfortable with it, but if you are, I'd be very curious to see that stuff. Watching you create is very uplifting. Thanks, I'm having fun. I'm just, sort of doodling along, doing whatever I do, just try to, like, learn a couple, or not learn, but, like, practice some different hatching techniques, depending on what I'm trying to illustrate. Let's see. Yeah, Kaiju Max is very cool. Thanks, Andrew Jefferson, for talking that up. I appreciate it. I definitely want to check it out. I've been thinking lately about how different comics were from TV, and now that there are all these comic shows, I can't help but appreciate the genuineness of comics as a medium versus TV. There are cool adaptations. But at the end of the day, my favorite medium is comics over film or TV. And I love good film and I love good TV. You know, I do. I love good storytelling. Maybe I'll put it that way, because I also like books and music, anything that tells a good story. But I love comics because it's, even if it's sort of corporate, right? We'll say, like, even if it's something by like Marvel or DC, there's not that many fingers in the pot. Like, if somebody's making Spider-Man or Batman, we've got a writer, maybe both a penciler and an inker, a colorist, a letterer. We've got an editor. Then there's probably an executive editor. And then there's probably, like, a vice president or a president. Not that many people compared to something like a film or TV show where there's dozens and dozens of dozens. Mianian asks if I'm enjoying Kids in the Hall. I'd love to check it out. I have not had time yet. I really haven't. I've just been working. I just haven't had time yet. I'd love to see it. I really enjoyed them when I was in college. Like, I loved that show. I wish someone would get a tattoo of the host of Comic Tropes. I would never ask someone to do something so permanent. I would never ask that. That would be flattering, but I would never ask anyone to do that. I wouldn't be like, I'll give you a reward. Tattoo my face on your body, and I'll give you $20. Look at Chris up here doing his thing. Alpha Chad. Oh, thoughts on Obi-Wan? I did take time to watch Obi-Wan. I will admit that. Overall, I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. I like Ewan McGregor as an actor. I always have. I think Shallow Grave was probably the first thing I saw him in. I think that was before Trainspotting, if I'm remembering right. And I just sort of noted like that he just had a certain charisma and energy that I liked, and I've been following him ever since. Andrew Jefferson with a super chat. Have you tried the Image 30th anthology? I haven't. A lot of new crime stories in there, and a Radiant Black story focusing on some bad guys. That sounds cool. I don't think it came to the main comic shop that I'm shopping at. That's probably why I missed it. I'll go to the other comic shop in town that I like to go to sometimes, and take a look for it, because that would be cool. Thanks for the heads up. My pen! I'll get the tattoo for $30 and we have a deal. Chris, you could feature Chris tattoos at the end of your videos like you did back in the day with fan art. Well, just to be clear, on the latest episode of Comic Tropes, there was fan art. There were 2 pieces of really nice fan art that I was very proud to feature. Tattoo Infotron on your forehead. No. I don't think anyone should do that. I think that would be a bad idea, not a good idea. What are you doing here, Steve? Tell you what, since Steve just gave that super chat, let me follow up on that, because Steve shot me an interesting piece of news. I don't think I really even have to look up the details on this one. It was just sort of heartwarming. To a degree. In Niagara Falls on the Canadian side, so like the Ontario area, somebody had their storage locker broken into and had a bunch of comic books stolen. About $10,000 worth of comics stolen, to be honest. Yikes! But here's the thing. The guy who had them stolen sort of worked a little bit like an amateur detective. Found them being offered for sale online and said he wanted to meet the people. Told them to bring just a few issues so that he could just sort of see them in person. He was able to look at the covers and confirm that they were definitely his. And then he said, like, what do you want for them? They're like, $4,000. He's like, sure, yeah, no problem. But I'm not going to pay anything, and you're going to wait here because I'm calling the cops. Those are my comics. And he was, like, worried that they would fight him or something, but no, it was like a boyfriend-girlfriend duo that had done it, and they stayed, and they got arrested, and the guy got his comics back. So, kind of a happy ending. Wish he hadn't had to go through that stressful event, but a lot of times we don't get to hear about like stolen comics getting returned, and I'm glad that this one just ended the right way. He did not perform a citizen's arrest. He just called the police. This was Canada, so like it's probably not a big worry about like somebody just breaking out an Uzi and shooting him. But anyway, so it ended well. I'm glad this guy got his comics back. That's a happy ending. John Dorsey with a super chat. Who are you? I'm the Eradicator. Is that the guy that goes, I am crossing your head? I can't quite remember. I am crossing your head. The Eradicator. I believe they stole the comics from a stolen car. Did they? I thought it said, maybe I didn't look at it that closely. I made a note, and I thought that it said storage locker. It could have been a car. But it was $10,000 worth. I can't believe they stayed. Oh, for whatever it's worth, like, as soon as they pulled up, the guy took a picture of their, like, license plate and them before they even came in. So he had their info, and I think they knew it. I would have violently throttled the pair. Oof. Yeah, it's sort. I agree. There's stuff about this that's weird. The thief had facial tattoos and was on camera. Okay, there's extra information from Clay. So maybe they knew they were on camera. Do you miss your big comic collection? Asks Tit Goblin. Yes and no. Yes, I miss certain issues. I kept certain ones that mean a lot to me. On the other hand, I wish I'd kept some more, but I was trying to be smart about what I kept when I moved across the country. There was like a weight limit, and there was plenty of other stuff that we needed to keep that had value too, and it wasn't all about me. You know, Chrissy had, equal right to move what she wanted across the country, and I wasn't going to say like, no, I need my comics. You get rid of your art supplies. I wasn't going to do that. So I was, I had to make choices. With what I kept and what I didn't. It was very hard. It really was. It was very hard. I wish I'd kept something that I thought I'd moved past and realized that I hadn't, that I really loved it. I wish I'd kept my G.I. Joe run. I had the full run of G.I. Joe, and I wish I'd kept that, actually. I miss certain things like that more than I miss, like Batman or Spider-Man or something like that. So what do I miss? There are issues that sometimes I'll miss. Sometimes I'll be like, I didn't keep all my Hellboy stuff. I should have kept all my Hellboy stuff. But I don't miss having like 30 long boxes. It was just too much to move around. It was just too much. I was happy to let go of a portion of my collection. It was time. But there are certain issues sometimes where there are a couple things that I've bought again, and now I've paid, back issue prices versus, not many things, but there's been a few things that I've bought, and I've been like, ugh, wish I'd kept the original, Aldo says, the Gorillas video is so good, loved it. Thank you so much. Haven't really had a video take off in a massive way lately. I was hoping it could have been the Gorillas one. The Gorillas one is doing fine, but but thank you. I liked making that one too. I had a blast doing the research and reading through the comics and stuff like that were necessary for that one. That one didn't feel too much like work. It took a while, but it was a lot of fun. Thank you very much for the kind words. That means a lot to me. Yeah, hindsight's 20/20. Exactly. A real Sophie's Choice moment for you. Maybe. It was a tough choice here and there. Wow, another super chat from Craig CK. I will be around more, Chris. Just been busy. Got a jet. Well, folks, the good news is that with that super chat, we're up to about $125 plus, what did I say, like $40 from last. So we're at like I'm going to write down that $40 number from last time because it was a light week, and that's fine. But we're up to like about $165 towards the $500 threshold where I'll give away that variant cover of Radiant Black. Kim Craig is loaded. I don't know if he's loaded. He's been a kind supporter of comics in a lot of different ways. He's a very generous individual. That part is sure. And you definitely don't owe me anything. Nobody owes me a super chat. I'm not asking any of you to do that. I'm very grateful when it happens. Very grateful. But trust me, I'm producing a show for free for everyone. It's nice when some people feel they're in a position to contribute a little bit. It is, because I'm so close to being able to justify that this could be my only job, but not quite. How will you decide who gets said comic, Chris? Yeah, fair question. Completely arbitrary. I'm going to have a range, a large range, and just have somebody pick a number, and I'm going to have already written down that number, and so whoever guesses that number, or at least comes closest without going over, will win it. As simple as that. I can't think of any other simple way to do it live. Unless somebody has a better suggestion. I'm open to changing that idea if there's a more efficient or more fair way. But I would like just write it down and we just take it from there. Yep. I love doing giveaways, but if I did it regularly, people tune in that really don't care about the show, and I'm trying to reward people that do watch this show. Hey man, fine, here's more money. Again, you don't have to do that, but that's really nice. When it's about a DC comic, do we have to call it a meta chat? Yeah, not a super chat, a meta chat. You have to, or DC lawyers will come after you. They're like, you spoke about our comics and called them super. That should only be used for Superman or Superboy or Supergirl. Otherwise, we want you to call it meta. What about Fletcher Hanks? I missed something. Oh, what was the weirdest stuff you learned during the Fletcher Hanks episode? Probably how dark his life was at the very end. That he literally died, like, homeless and alone, frozen on a park bench. I mean, that was very dark. Fletcher Hanks. And then, once I knew that he felt that lonely, I was looking at his comics in a whole new light and realizing, like, all the punishments or the scariest things that he could come up with were always like being lonely, like being stranded on a planet. You know, like, he made his greatest fears come true by apparently not being a very good guy. So that was the weirdest thing I learned about Fletcher Hanks. But I'm proud of that episode. I think it was a pretty interesting one. Yeah, it's morbid. Yeah, it's sad. It is, but better to talk about how it's sad, and maybe we can like learn to be better people, or we can at least appreciate this guy's artwork instead of just forgetting somebody. Let's see. I promise this is of my free will and not coerced. Well, that sounds suspicious. It seems that Hanks came to the same end predicted for Cerebus. Well, that's definitely true. I totally agree with you there, Joe. Alone and unloved. I think that in a lot of ways, I mean, dying alone and unloved sounds to me almost worse than like dying violently, you know? Not that either of those should be a choice we have to make or anything, but there's something to it. It's just really sad. Sorry, I always try to be honest when I'm asked a question. I know that isn't a pick-me-up here towards the end of our day. Once I wrap today's show up, I am going to finish mowing my lawn, because the sun is up real late these days, and I don't have much left to do. And then I'm going to get to work on the next episode of Comic Tropes that I'm making, which I think everyone will like. I always think people will, you know? I'm not trying to make something that I'm like, oof, they're going to hate me for this one. Hey, I've got more news. What am I doing? I got to talk about news. Whoa, huge super chat. We keep jumping up. John Dorsey. Let me use this as a token of my appreciation for your effort, talent, charm, and passion. That's very kind of you. Your channel was one of the first I discovered in my comic book YouTube creator journey. May you live long and prosper. May you as well, John. Super super kind of you. Or meta kind of you if I'm working at DC. That's just really, really kind of you. That I really appreciate it. That brings us like basically a little past 2/5 of the way to giving away the comic, folks. Episode on obscure and weird superheroes. Probably not in the near future. You know, some of that stuff gets covered by a bunch of different like blogs or books and stuff. So I have to dig and find something that I either have a different angle on or that I'm passionate about. I just don't want to try to like repeat too much of what's already been done out there, you know? But I do like weird superheroes. I really do. I really do. Thank you guys for being so kind. Yeah, exactly what Kid Valhalla just said. It's really, really nice. Least favorite episode of Comic Tropes. My least favorite? Oh. Probably the second one I ever did. I think I started strong. I think my second episode where I talk about Preacher, I hadn't figured out anything about how to do my show yet. And I came up with a super weird gimmick for like every trope I would undress this doll of Jesse Custer. I was just being as silly and weird and out there as I could, but it's, I don't know, it's stupid. It's not good. And I'm sure I could have more insightful criticism these days as well. That was a comic that I really liked, so I was excited to talk about it so early on, but I don't think I was quite ready to talk about it in the sort of depth that it needed. So yeah, like basically my second episode is one. Like if I was going to delete one off the channel, it would be that one. But I also am like, if there's nothing like literally offensive or objectionable about it, I'm not trying to hide anything. People can at least see the growth, I guess, right? So yeah, watching those early shows is so fun though. Well, thanks. Thanks. They were looser. You know, I didn't have a script at all for any of those early episodes. I would literally pick a comic at random. I would come up with a list ahead of time of what I thought we could expect with that creator. Like, I'm like, well, this is what they do the most, or this is what they're known for doing. So let's see how many times we actually come across that to see if it's true or if they don't do it as much as some people say that they do. It was an interesting idea. I just sort of got to a point where I wanted to talk about things in more depth and detail than just looking at a single issue could provide me. And if I was like going back and redoing the same creators, I was avoiding so many other interesting creators. So yeah, I don't know. Don't delete. It's your history. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, there was a lot more drinking in the early episodes. That's true. I mean, first of all, I was younger. You know, I've been doing this like 5 years or so. And second, I didn't have, like, I thought that I was healthier than I was back then. Ever since I, you know, realized that I'm diabetic, I've been taking my health a lot more seriously. You know, I think in the last year I've lost a good amount of weight, and that's nice. It's nice to be heading back on that path to being healthy. I definitely watch what I put in my body a lot more. It's not that I don't drink, but for instance, I definitely don't drink beer anymore. And there's certain liquors that I won't, because they just have too much sugar or carbs, things like that. Yeah, so I'm really careful about what I eat and drink now. My first tropes video was the Liefeld one where you drank the gross sodas. Yeah, those were definitely, some of them were gross. Some of them were like fine. They were like, okay, that's a novelty. I guess it tastes like peanut butter and jelly. Like, I guess it's just sort of like a vague sweetness. And some of them, like that ranch dressing one, was about the most vile thing I've ever tasted. Like, just disgusted me. And I'm sure some people might sort of like that, the buttery taste it almost had, but for me, I hated it. We've seen the weight loss. That's good. I still need to lose a lot more, to be honest. I've never drank or smoked. more power to you. You've got a leg up on a lot of the rest of us in having a good chance to live longer, or at least have a better quality of life. I can't say the same, and I don't really judge those who do indulge in vices because I have myself. But I can admire the conviction, actually, of saying no to vices. I can really admire that conviction. It's not easy. I think it's harder, though, to cut things like salt and sugar out than anything else. I really do. I think that those things are the most addictive. Which was worse, ranch soda or 30-year-old gum? Those are two horrible things that I've ingested. Not an easy answer either. Not an easy answer, Andrew. I think the gum might have tasted a little worse, but somehow it felt easier to do. Maybe because it was easier to like spit out, and I sort of know that I don't like ranch, and I knew it was coming. There's almost something like that. So I don't know. What's tastier, ranch soda or 30-year-old gum? Neither is tasty. There's no tastier. They're both horrible. Do you have a workout routine at all? Not these days. I have to walk a fair amount for my job, selling cars. I'm like walking a pretty big lot constantly, which is good. And I have had workout routines in the past, but I don't do very well at like self-discipline in the gym. What I do well, like I've always had to hire a trainer, a personal trainer, or take classes, one or the other, so that like, because if somebody just tells me what to do, fine, I just turn off my brain and I just do it. I just suck it up and I do it. But if it's just me going like, hey Chris, I want you to run for like 40 minutes on this treadmill at like this intensity, I'll get to like 20 minutes and just be like, good enough, right? Whereas if somebody's telling me just keep going, I want you to keep going, I want you to like push it this way or that way, I just do it. I can't explain exactly why I am built that way, other than I have learned as I've gotten older that I'm a people pleaser. I don't like to disappoint or upset people, even strangers or even people that aren't really necessarily friends. I really feel uncomfortable when I feel like somebody is upset or disappointed in me. It's at least I'm aware of it, and so I can work my way past it. But that's the way I just like you get like anxiety sometimes, like, or maybe even like, just like you're afraid of a spider or heights or something like that, where you're like, oh, I shouldn't necessarily be this afraid, but you just sort of have that feeling in your body. That's sort of the feeling I get when I'm getting the sense that somebody is disappointed with me or something like that. So like, even if it was like a personal trainer, I'd just be like, oh no, I don't want to disappoint them. Some car sales spiel. I don't think that would be very interesting to you, to be honest. I really don't. Maybe someday. I'll tell you what, if for any reason I ever like can retire from that and do this full time, I could definitely give you like, like my patter, or like what I do when like I talk to a customer about something. Although it is customized a bit depending on what their situation and needs are. I don't think it would be that interesting, but while I'm still working there, I just also don't think it would be a good idea to go into too much detail about how I do my job. Because I do like the people I work with very, very much. I will say that. And I want to be respectful to them as well as anyone else. Yeah, I am not in a rush to get out of that job because I do really like my coworkers a lot. They're so nice. How do I deal with rude customers? It's always different, Tari, depending on how they are rude to you. I do consider my job like to a degree I have to suck some of it up. and take a certain amount of abuse. There's a limit. I have had to stand up for myself and be like, you can't talk to me like that. You know, we're done here. Like, and it's, people say I get a little scary when I get that angry. So I sort of hold that in as long as I can. And I'll warn people, I'm like, look, you know, I am working for you. You need to calm down because I am trying to help you. You don't want to, like, you know, be so mean or rude. I wouldn't say mean. That sounds weak. It depends on how they're doing things. There haven't been, like, I've never had to, like, hit someone or get physical in any sort of way. I've had to walk away once or twice. Just once or twice. I feel like the way that hand is slightly turned, we shouldn't actually be able to see the ring finger and middle finger like you have them. I think we should see, well, this is the thumb. So I'm thinking, like, maybe you're right. You're right. I'm going to white some of this out. I'm going to white it out. I don't like what I did. You're right. I was feeling weird about it too, Chrissy. And whiteout isn't a perfect solution, but since this isn't digital, I'm going to do it old-fashioned. Meanwhile, I'll pick up another piece of news. Here's one that is a little too late for anybody to actually do anything about, but it's still interesting to talk about. Kevin Smith had a contest that ended Sunday where you could actually appear in one of his comics as a character. And he did it almost like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory sort of thing, where if you bought a Mooby, that, like, as in a cow moo, Mooby shirt or jacket, one of them had like a ticket inside, and the winner got to be in a future comic by Kevin Smith. I thought that sounded fun. It was probably, I didn't look too far into it, but I guess it was to promote his upcoming Clerks 3. He's going back to that well again. But yeah, I morb when I'm mad. I morb out. But anyway, so he had a contest there, and the winner hasn't been publicly announced, but the contest is over. So I'm sorry if, like, you're only hearing about this now and you were like, my dream was to be in a Kevin Smith comic book. I don't have the solution for you this time, but that I did think that sounded like kind of a fun contest, that, like, if you bought a jacket, you might have a ticket inside, a golden ticket that entitles you to be a character in a comic. That sounded fun. I liked it. But will Kevin Smith actually finish the comic? As long as it isn't for DC, he seems to finish his comic. Not DC, Marvel, right? Marvel was the one that he didn't finish it for. What was the one that he didn't... there were two. There was the Black Cat Spider-Man one, and there was the Daredevil Bullseye one. Those were, I think, the two books that he never finished for them. Then I want to say maybe it was Damon Lindelof was doing a Ultimate Hulk versus Ultimate Wolverine story that, like, only one issue came out, or maybe 2 issues, and it never got finished, I think. Have you ever been to the Fantagraphics comic store in Seattle? It could also be a video topic. I have, several times, not lately. I love it. It's a really different, cool place. It's awesome. It's small, but it's like, it's always got some original art from a comic hung on a pretty big wall as, like, sort of a rotating art gallery. Half the store is, like, for some reason, a record store. I don't understand whether they're sharing the place with that record store or if Fantagraphics themselves runs that record store. I've never quite understood that part of it. But yeah, they've got a nice little store there. It's a little bit in the middle of nowhere. It's like in a part of Seattle to the way to the south called Georgetown that's more sort of industrial. So it's not like a place where you just sort of, like, can walk up and down and view the art stores and, like, get a good lunch. I mean, there's a few things there. It's not nothing, but it isn't very big. But yeah, I should go back there and make a short video for anybody curious about what the Fantagraphics store is like. That's a decent idea. I like it. Did he finish Widening Gyre? No. Now that you say that, wait. Maybe he did. Maybe he did. I can't quite remember. Wow. Look at that. I almost missed this, but let me just scroll up a little. Parker Luck, what's that? Matt Bird. That's a long name, but says, I'm diabetic since late 2019, and yes, it's hard to figure out one's strengths in keeping yourself focused. When I found out, I was 210 pounds, and now I'm at 175-ish, which is where they want me at. That's great news. Congratulations on being able to have that discipline, taking care of yourself. That's great. That's great. New England Comics is the one I go to. Which one, ChemDog? I grew up in the Boston area. First store I went to regularly was in Quincy, and then I lived in Somerville, and I could walk to the Harvard Square one. I was that close. I was like right on the edge of Somerville and Cambridge, so I could walk to that store. It was nice. I'm going to erase some of the pencil stuff on this, and we'll move on to the next piece of news. Let's move on to the next piece of news. Am I going to do videos on Daniel Clowes, Richard Corbin, and Wally Wood? I'd love to do them on all of those people. I'd love to. Drawn and Quarterly store is also cool in Quebec. I'd love to go there. That would be cool. Brockton. I've been to the Brockton one. You know what? The Brockton one, I remember my mom was doing errands. I was young, and I was with her, and she took me to the Brockton one because I was saying I wanted to pick up the Death of Superman comic that came out that day, and so she did take me to the Brockton New England Comics that day that Death of Superman came out, and I got that comic there. Here's a quick one, which I just thought might prompt a discussion here. There is a manga creator in Japan by the name of Yuji Kaku. And he has done several different comics that have been fairly well received. None of them have taken off in like a massive way, but that's normal for a lot of creators. You know, they sort of like, they get one that like, you know, gets published for like, you know, several months or a couple years, and then it ends, and then it's on to the next one. And that's basically what's happened here, because he created a book called a Yashaman, which was published in Shonen Jump, and its final episode just came out, and it was number 25. So it went 25 chapters, 25 weekly chapters. So just a few months, and it got canceled. I guess it just didn't quite have the views or whatever. But what's weird is he had one of the most popular comics they've ever had on their Jump Plus digital platform. Mom says she's the greatest mom ever because she did that. If that's our mom's bar for becoming the greatest mom, then sure, Mom is the greatest mom. That's funny. Hi, Mom. I didn't know that my mom was watching. I'll watch my mouth. No, it was nice of her, though. It was nice. It was exciting at the time. And I remember I picked up 2 copies, like one so that I didn't have to open the bag, because that was going to be worth something. You know, that was going to help put me through college, and one that I could open up and read. And, yeah, it was worth a little bit for a while there, and I guess it still is worth a little bit, but not that much. I'm okay with the fact that I sold that one with all my comics a couple years back. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Here's a creator that can get, like, you know, one of the best followings possibly on digitally, like online, and yet somehow the readers of the physical book, and by the way, if you're not familiar, Shonen Jump literally has their readers fill out survey forms, and that's how they decide who's going to continue and who gets canceled, so that there's room for something new, because it's an anthology title and they're constantly bringing in new books, but that's how they decide, is by like surveys. They listen to the surveys. Yeah, isn't that an interesting phenomenon where somebody could attract a good following digitally, but somehow they aren't getting the physical, like, mailed in surveys filled out for them? You think you still have it? Do I still have it bagged? I don't think I have it, period. I am familiar with Croatian artist Stepan Sejic. I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly, but beautiful, beautiful work. Beautiful work. I was following a Yashiman, bummed out it ended so early. Oh, cool. I'm glad somebody in the chat was following along and knew what that one was. Yeah. What single issue comic have you resold that gave you the most profit? I've never really tried to actually make a big profit off of any of my comics, so none of them. Like, I don't think I've ever really made hardly anything off of any of them. Let's see. Michael DeFonte says, I was at the Brockton store that same Wednesday when I was in high school. It was my usual store to go to. And what year would that have been? I might have been in high school too, so maybe we're kind of close in age, Michael. That's funny. Who knows? Who knows? It might be a small enough world that, like, we were in the same place at the same time. You never know. Small world. Well, last time I went to Japan, I got recognized by 3 different people at, like, 3 different times. And I mean, some of that is because I have, I guess, a YouTube. Well, it's all because I have a YouTube show. But it was pretty weird. It was pretty weird. Most valuable comic that I own. It might... Oh, my sister just sent me a picture. This will amuse you guys. This isn't, like, giving anything away. Look at what she's got. She's got the Return of Superman. That's not the Death of Superman. That was a black bag. But the white bag was the Return of Superman. So my sister has that one still bagged. Look at that. That's funny. That's kind of cool, Gene. I really dragged you into this comics world, didn't I? What a terrible brother. I like comics, so you're going to have to read some comics now. I lost my place. Probably Walking Dead 1 is the most valuable one I own. Probably. Depending on what it goes for. I've probably got a few others that are valuable. Like a first print of Ninja Turtles number, I think 5. Might be 4, but I think it's 5. And the first issue of the Fantagraphics run on Usagi Yojimbo. That's up there. Must have been trippy to get recognized in Japan. Yeah, it was. It was flattering. They knew you because I sold them cars. I did actually once sell a vehicle to a gentleman from Japan. He was here on a work visa to work in Seattle for like a tech company. We've got a lot of tech companies here. So sometimes we do get people from out of the country if they've got like super valuable skills. It's interesting. And he needed a car because he was here going to be here for like something like a 9-month term or something. And that was tricky. It was doable, but it's tricky because, well, A, he didn't speak English at all. He might have spoken a phrase or two, but he didn't speak English. Second, selling a car to someone who does not have, you know, like a United States driver's license is doable, but there's some steps involved. You know, they have to have like a, what do you call it, a passport and like sort of like, I think a work document. It's been a while since I did this one. And I used every Japanese phrase I knew at the time. I really, or word. And other than that, used Google Translate on my phone. And we talked back and forth, and I was able to sell him a car. I've done that a couple times with people that speak zero English. Couple times, more than a couple times, with people that only speak Spanish. And I'll speak like my baby Spanish that like I theoretically got past in college on knowing, but like really don't. I'll have to use the app. I've sold to a Korean lady. I've sold to a Chinese gentleman. It's interesting. Yeah. It's very... You know that you've become good at your job, though, when you know how to guide people through things and your only concern is figuring out how to explain that properly in as succinct a way as possible so that a translation app isn't going to make any mistakes with the translation. You know, like that I'm being very clear and concise with what needs to be done. It's interesting. Carrie says that she got the first appearance of Hulk graded. She thought that it was the original, but it was one of the facsimile copies. That's kind of cute, though. I like that. Have I come across the YouTube channel FizzFop1? No. What's it say? They cover Golden Age and public domain superheroes. Long release cycles, but pretty entertaining. That stuff is entertaining. Have not come across them, but I like that stuff. Alex Braun says, recently I managed to get every single issue of Akira. Great book. One of my favorites. And Sailor Moon. Don't know anything about Sailor Moon. I mean, I know it was a cartoon. I don't know anything about Sailor Moon. Completing Lone Wolf and Cub is next. Okay. Let's go. I love that. I love that. I'd say my most pricey comics would be Creepy 1 and number 43 of Tales from the Crypt. Yeah. What's your longest stream? One of these went for, like, I've had like about 2 of them go for a little over 3 hours, and that's more than enough. We're closing in on the end of this one, folks, because I think I finished the art here. There's my Pike and Spock, and if I was even like done earlier, I think I would use some shading. Like I wanted to put some like dark shadows across this side of his face with some extreme highlights right along the edge, and sort of the same with Pike, but maybe have a little bit softer glow on him. But anyway, have I seen Everything Everywhere All at Once? Favorite movie of the year, probably favorite movie of the last 5 years. Let's see what else I had for news, though, because I did have 1 or 2 other things. Okay, here's an interesting one. I'm glad that I've still got sort of big news. And Black Phoenix says, I love FizzFop, the YouTube channel. Oh, and BB says, have I thought about doing an episode about Evan Dorkin? Yes. Love Evan Dorkin. Hilarious, but also Beasts of Burden. Very emotional comic. Great stuff. You should do a 24-hour live stream sometime. That would be interesting. That's an interesting idea, Chrissy. What would I'd have to have, like, big things, like, every hour or something to keep people invested. But that's an interesting idea. Maybe try a 24-hour comic book day by myself? I don't know. Okay. Probably a fair amount of you watch Stranger Things. I watch Stranger Things. I really like it. It's this weird mix of Stephen King and Steven Spielberg. I love the 80s setting for it. Does it exploit it a little bit? Yeah, but I love it. I like the music. I like the references. And I think that it's still like got compelling characters and a creepy, cool story. I'd feed you. I'll feed. So anyway, Stranger Things season 4 just started like 2 days ago or 3 days ago on Netflix. At least 7 of the 9 episodes. They're going to release the last 2 in about a week. What's interesting about that is in the first 8 minutes of season 4, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a small flashback to one of the main characters when she was younger. It's invalidated all the Dark Horse comic books about Stranger Things. I'm surprised in this day and age that there isn't more coordination to keep things canon, because there's nothing that like sort of alienates a fan faster than when they've invested their time and effort in something and then you tell them, by the way, I hope you had fun with that story. It's not canon. That didn't actually happen. Because, yeah, there have been a bunch of Dark Horse Stranger Things comics talking about this character's backstory and history, and this first 8 minutes just invalidates it. It invalidates like a bunch of the comics. So I sort of feel for the creators. Unless they're going to come up with some sort of weird retcon workaround, but I really don't think so. I really don't. So all I can say is if you've read those first, or if you've read those last several Stranger comic books about Stranger Things that are set in the past, and then watch this season, just the first few minutes, I'm sure that was a little disappointing to sort of feel like that story was just sort of snatched away. And yeah. Anyway, none of those stories really happened. Yeah, of course it's all fake, but yeah, there are some Stranger Things comics, and my understanding is they do pretty well for Dark Horse. Dark Horse definitely does a bunch of licensed comics. But I felt that was at least a little disappointing that they couldn't have found a way to talk with the writer when they were coming up with like the story ideas and stuff, and sort of tell them like, no, maybe don't go down that path because we're thinking of doing this or that, something like that. Just... Anyway, you eating 30-year-old gum is not canon now. You need to eat 40-year-old gum. I don't think there is such a thing. Exactly, Black Phoenix. Star Wars fans know that pain. That said, when Disney bought Star Wars and sort of started fresh with new movies, I was disappointed that something like, say, the original books featuring Grand Admiral Thrawn weren't canon anymore. I was disappointed that those Timothy Zahn books weren't canon because I thought that they were very, very good. And to me, that was a very important part of Star Wars because we hadn't gotten any Star Wars in many, many years, and it was an exciting time to get new Star Wars that felt pretty authentically Star Wars. That was an exciting time. But there got to be so many comic books and books about Star Wars that I did think it started to get pretty damn messy. It was like every single character that like popped onto the screen for like a second had a huge elaborate backstory, and most of the time it tied into like, the rebellion or the empire in some sort of subtle but important way, and it got to be too much for me. It really did. Like when they had things like, Tales of Jabba Hutt's Palace, and they would like have like the backstory of every alien and Muppet that you saw in those sequences in Return of the Jedi, and some of them like, were secretly spies and stuff like that. I was like, it's too much. It's too much. It needs to be simplified. So I wasn't totally against Disney rebooting things a little bit, saying the movies happened, we're going to start fresh. And they've gone on, like especially Dave Filoni, who's produced, a bunch of the cartoons, the newer cartoons, as well as things like The Mandalorian. He's taken a lot of ideas from that legacy stuff and found like a new twist to it that I think is very respectful and a pretty good way of moving it in to the new Star Wars continuity. I don't think that the new trilogy was excellent. I liked the first movie, I really liked the second movie, and I really disliked the third movie, unfortunately, for me. Plenty of people like it, totally respect that. I'm glad you can enjoy it because Star Wars should just be enjoyed. It shouldn't be anything deep. It can be well done and mean something, but it doesn't have to be, it shouldn't define us. Anyway, last piece of news, silly little thing. NPR had like a funny little weird thing where they decided that they would buy or reboot a public domain character and make a comic book just to see what goes into like that whole process and be able to speak about, like that whole journey. They made like a series of podcasts about it. And they decided to do Microface, which was a real Golden Age character whose power was like a megaphone for a voice. Like well, not like in his actual face. He put on a mask that was like a microphone. That was his power. Thank you, Chris Sears. Thank you very much, man. That's nice of you. And anyway, so Microface got released. They released a new comic book, Microface. And now they are currently having an auction to see how far they can push the popularity of Microface. It includes some original art from the new Microface comics. It includes an original page from Microface back in like the 40s, and some other extras that they used to like, make the podcast and stuff like that. All sorts of cool stuff. It's up to just over $8,000 on eBay right now. It's pretty bonkers. That does sound like a character from My Hero Academia. Yeah, they can have some pretty mundane powers sometimes. Anyway, so Microface, if you've really enjoyed that, or if you want to push that to become the most popular comic out there, take a look at the Microface eBay auction. All right, folks. Lot of discussion now about Star Wars. Totally respect that. But I think I'm going to wrap up. I think it's time for me to get some dinner. I had a blast on this one, folks. That was some interesting news to talk about. I love talking about the comics. And again, let me just jump back to this one, because I admire I admire indie stuff. I really do. And the amount of hard work and passion that went into this thing, Wizard, the Comics Magazine, issue 2, is incredible. Again, if you are interested in that, Eli was in the chat earlier. He said that these are going fast, and I'm not surprised because this is a lot of value. But look at how thick that is. It's called Wizard, the Comics Magazine. It's published by, and you can buy them at Cosmic Lion Comics, okay? And I recommend that. I love supporting indie stuff. I love supporting the passion. I think you might enjoy that. Look at that. Thanks, Chris. I'm going back to sleep. I woke up at 3 a.m. to catch this stream. That's amazing. BB, thank you. I know some of you guys are staying up late for this. It's amazing. It's so flattering. Will I make the lips red? No, I think I can't. I can't, Carrie. Because here's the thing. I think I'm going to give this to a friend of mine, Jeff, that loves this show. He's a really good friend of mine, and I think I like how it came out, so I think I'm going to give this to him. And if I was going to color it, I'd have to color everything, not just a little piece. Wow, Andrew Jefferson. He gave me a hippo waving next time. I'm going to have to grab a copy of that. I hope you guys do. I hope you do. Anyway, you guys were great. This was one of my... I had a blast on this one. Keep an eye on the Comic Tropes channel. There will be an episode on Sunday for that. It's going to have to be something smaller because I've got a busy week. I'm trying to remember. I've got a friend from Hong Kong visiting on Friday, and I've got a wedding on Saturday. Wait, no, that's next Saturday, actually. So that's good. Yeah. Thinking of my own schedule. But I've got some stuff coming up, so I gotta figure this out. But I'm going to take off. Everybody, you've been incredible. Mikey with a last-minute super chat. Was not expecting that. Let me give you guys a recap of like where I'm at there. That means we're halfway. We're halfway to the $500 threshold. When I hit $500 in super chat from when I announced this, I will randomly choose a viewer. So maybe next week on the live stream, I'll be able to give away this variant copy depending on how it goes. But we are now halfway there. We're at about $250 in super chats. I'm going for $500 in super chats is the magic number where I'll give this away. But thanks Mikey for getting us there. And that's a really funny little animated thing. I don't think I can draw out the clothes any longer than that. And I don't want to. I want to go eat. Thanks, everybody. Keep reading comics. Bye. Now I just have to look for where the stop button is. I've got a couple windows open. See you later, everybody.